You're familiar with the term Operation Triple Threat. Today, we'll be highlighting it in a different context: singing, acting, and dancing. I'm your host, Rashid Holder, and this is another episode of Positive Pulse, where today we'll be speaking with Miss Janelle Headley, founder and director of Operation Triple Threat. You down with OTT? Yeah, you know me. Welcome to Positive Pulse. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And straight out the gates, I can ask the question: what motivated you to start Operation Triple Threat?
Well, thanks for having me. What motivated me was basically just my love for musical theater. I was trying to think about how I could give back to the community here. And I grew up watching the same musical theaters shows on VHS over and over again. I loved it. And I thought, hey, maybe there's some young people here who want to know about this, who want to try singing, dancing, and acting. So we started off as a camp, just to try and see if people would enjoy it.
How long was the camp for?
The camp was 6 weeks back in 2011, and now it's almost 14 years later. And we never stopped after that. They just loved it, and they kept saying, we want more. And we started as a camp, and then after 2 years, we evolved into an after-school program.
So when you say we, who are the persons that are involved in Operation Triple Threat?
Well, we have a small but mighty team of people who work at OTT. Some of the names are Michelle Farley. She teaches in the voice and the drama department with me. Then we have various dance tutors like Shantae McDonald. We have Georgia as well, Georgia Daniels. We also have Julia Headley Roman, who teaches remotely from Germany.
And you got some heavy hitters in this camp then.
Yeah, it's a whole list of people who help. We also have Hugh Griffith, who teaches in the theater department, just to name a few. And they all are people who are involved in the industry, who have their hand on the pulse of what the industry needs, and then help pass on that information to our students to help them be the best they can be.
No, I like how you've used the word pulse there. If you're talking about pulse, the heartbeat, they generally say that children are the heartbeat of any society. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Operation Triple Threat focuses primarily on the development of these children. Is there a specific demographic that you usually look for? Tell us more about the whole process behind who participates in Operation Triple Threat.
Well, when we started in 2011, we started with just our 11 to 18 group. Since then, we've expanded to have 3 groups. We have our Sparks, which is the 4 to 6 year olds. We have our juniors, 7 to 11. And our senior program, which is 12 through 21. And anyone is welcome. OTT exists to empower young people through the performing arts, and we are a registered charity. So our main aim is to make sure that finances are never a barrier for someone who wants to pursue their dreams in the performing arts. So in addition to all our programming and services, we also offer scholarships, either full or partial scholarships for students to attend the program, and then to make sure that the program is accessible to those who can afford it. We subsidize everyone who comes to the program so that the cost remains doable for the average family as well.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful, Janelle, I must say. I'm just a bit jealous that I think I've gone past the age requirements for Operation Triple Threat. You've spoken about programs. What specifically are some of the programs that Operation Triple Threat offers? And what benefits do they, or do you see from the participants?
Well, in our Sparks program, because they're very young and they're now exploring, it's more sort of play and exploring singing, dancing, and acting for the first time. Our junior program, then it intensifies a bit more. They have a little bit more structure, and they're doing singing, dancing, and acting classes every time they come on a Wednesday, and they're here for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then our senior program meets a minimum of 3 times a week. So this is a very intensive program. They're taking part in singing, dancing, various types of dancing, acting. And then in all of our programs, we also incorporate social support. Again, because we're a charity, we want to make sure that kids don't have any barriers to really accessing and really partaking fully in our program. So if you're coming here hungry, you can't focus. So we have a meals program. We also have, as I said, the scholarship program. And then our social support program allows students and families to access psychological or social care free of cost if they need it. So those are some of our programs. We also have our Bridge Award program. So we know that, you know, when a student starts to age out of our program, we don't want that their dreams just are deferred and they have to go to a regular job if that's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've helped students to go overseas and study at the tertiary level. We've also helped students just go away for short-term workshops and to see shows and be inspired by New York City.
Have those grand experiences that you may not necessarily have here.
Exactly. And that's one of my favorite things to see, because I've seen it time and time again. I'm watching them watch the show and I see their face light up. And then afterwards, they always tell me after the first show, but I can do this because we do this. They just have more money than we do, but I can do this.
It kind of helps them to obviously build, you know, that self-confidence and even sometimes that self-awareness to say, well, hey, you know, like there's nothing that, you know, is beyond the scope of either my imagination or even my ability.
Exactly. Anything's possible. I know we're sort of a rock in the middle of the ocean, but we have done great things as a nation for many years. And even in the performing arts, we have people who have done really well. And we just want to continue to inspire more young people to pursue this and see it as a viable form of a career and a life.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot more focus on the, you know, the cultural side of what Barbadians have to offer, especially over the last few years, where, as you said, we're moving away from those traditional means of employment and looking more to develop persons, you know, in various cultural industries. What would you say is the biggest difference that you've seen from persons as they've come in to the program, and as you say, as they make their way out into maybe something, as I say, a little more grandiose?
When I think of that, I think of 2 main things. I think that confidence is key for anyone, and once people have that switched on, that sort of light switched on in them, and they know that they can do anything, that changes their outlet, it changes their posture. And whether they want to do the performing arts or not, I think that when students come into our space and they know it's a safe space and they feel like they've found their people, that alone just changes their trajectory, because they realize, I'm not alone, I'm not some freak or weirdo. And that changes their mindset.
And so that opens a little more included then.
Exactly, and that opens up a lot of just doors just by being confident.
Yeah.
The next thing, in terms of tangible things, we've got over 17 alums who have gone on to study, who are now working professionally, whether it be on the West End or whether it be on cruise ships or off Broadway, and they're really showing that they can make this a career. You know?
So you actually have persons that would have been part of Operation Triple Threat that have moved into Broadway?
Not on Broadway, but on the West End, for example, in London, which is the equivalent. One of our students, Samuel Routley, I just saw him, and just thinking about it makes me tear up, because he was in my classes. He was just a young boy at school thinking about what he could do. And he literally, after his show, he was in Guys and Dolls on the West End. He came up to me, the show wasn't even fully ended, hugged me and said, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for this program. And it's moments like that that remind you, okay, it's worth all the sacrifice, the hard work, because you can see the trajectory. And that's just one of many, you know, students who have come from very humble beginnings and didn't even think that tertiary studies was a possibility for them.
Yeah.
They went through the school system and felt like they weren't smart.
Yeah.
But then when they came into our program, they found what they were gifted at, and that allowed them to go and study overseas at the tertiary level, and then hearing messages from them saying, I'm getting all A's. That again, that's really inspiring. So it's great to see them do wonderful shows, but for me, that personal shift in them and knowing that they can take on anything they put their mind to is one of the biggest takeaways for me.
Right. So you would have mentioned, before we came on here, about some of the different productions that you've done, the different events that you've done throughout the course. What does a year in production at Operation Triple Threat look like? I mean, you told me one is a little top secret, but if you can let anything what the bag at this time, feel free to share.
Well, I can't talk about this season yet. I will be able to announce it in another week or two. And we announce shows for December, April, and July every year. But we have done quite a few shows over the years. We've done original work, but we also do a lot of licensed productions. This is important for those who want to work internationally, for them to be able to just have something on their resume that someone can recognize anywhere. So we've done things like Matilda, The Little Mermaid, we've done Annie, we've done Into the Woods, Once on This Island, just to name a few.
Do that again. Let me see what you lead off with. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You should do it, double boy.
Okay. Left foot. Oh.
Yeah.
Ben.
Back.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We can have some fun today with Operation Triple Threat. Some participants, and they're going to tell us all about their experiences here in the program, what motivated them. That's the first thing I want to know from you. What motivated you, ladies and gentlemen, to start or be involved in Operation Triple Threat?
What motivated me is that I've always loved dancing, and when I grew up a little more, I like to do acting as well. And I heard a lot about OTT. I've been going to their shows for many years, and I was like, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
So I knew it would take me forward, and I was like scared to join at first because I wouldn't have any friends. But once I joined, it was like so fun.
Okay, so you're the dancer. So you can tell me, Tiba, was motivated you to join Operation Triple Threat?
At the time that I first was introduced to it, I had family members, my cousins were in it. And after seeing them join, they had really nothing to do since they were homeschooled. So they really found something that they were really passionate about. And after seeing them be probably the happiest they've ever been in life, I was like, oh, I want a piece of that. So,
You want to be involved in that.
too. So yeah.
So family, and obviously some of your experiences from what you saw.
Exactly.
And then we got the threat.
I was a very energetic child. I still am, but I was definitely very outgoing.
Like bouncing off of walls, energetic?
Yeah, like all the walls in the room.
All right, cool.
My family basically was just like, let's put your energy into something.
Into good use, into productive use.
And I loved all singing, dancing, and acting, but my top two were singing and acting at the time. So I was always like singing around the house or just like going up to my family and just acting, just like pretending I don't know something or something. So yeah, my family just decided like, oh, you should do an Operation Triple Threat, and I've been here since I was 7. So.
And how long have you been involved in the program? You said you've been here since 7.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
I was here since I was 14, 13, so it's my 5th year.
I think I was here since I was 9 or 10. Somewhere around there.
Okay. She's being very secretive, right? This is my next question to you then. What is the most beneficial thing, or what's the most important thing that you've learned since being involved in the program? Like, what's the experience been like for you?
The experience for me has been absolutely outstanding. I've learned things that have benefited me and will benefit me in my future career. And I can't pinpoint it down to one thing. There's so many lessons Janelle has taught me and my other tutors that when I go out there in the workforce, I know it'll give me a little push ahead of people, because they're like, it would just change.
Yeah, it makes you a more well-rounded individual.
Yes. But one thing I always know, early is on time,
Yeah.
on time is late, and
Correct.
late is unacceptable.
Okay then.
Well, to piggyback off of Aria, I will be very specific, as Shana always says, and I will narrow it down to something that we have learned is to be a good actor, you must first be a good person.
Okay.
And by becoming a good actor or becoming a good person, you'll become better in each way. So we really are not only outside of the singing, dancing, and acting, we have social support, which really hones our communication skills. It's basically introducing young kids to therapy and communicating, and something that they're not always open to.
Well, I see you're putting communication skills to good use. So hey, it seems to be working.
It's working, and I think being able to communicate and have a safe space to be yourself has really allowed me to be comfortable in myself, not only here, but everywhere else, and not be afraid, be more confident in the room I walk into. So that's really made me a better person.
I like that for you, and we can round it off here once again.
The main thing that OTT has taught me is to be a better person, because obviously the 3 disciplines, singing, dancing, and acting, I've learned a whole lot, and I've definitely improved since I've been here in all disciplines. But I think the main thing is how to be a better person and how to treat others with respect and kindness, and also build your confidence level, that when you walk in a room, everybody knows who you are, because you're just like
for good reason.
Yeah, for a good reason.
Right,
for a good reason, and that you're just like a ball of sunshine, a ball of joy, and that you're only there to uplift people and not bring them down.
It seems that you've found yourself in the correct space, in the right space, to develop both professionally, socially, and obviously artistically.
Yeah,
for sure.
So Operation Triple Threat, you done with OTT?
Yeah, you know me.
This has been another episode of Positive Pulse. I'm your host, Rashid Holder. Thank you, and OTT out.